Sherilyn and Catherine. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great presenter, Jamiel Owens, who is the Family Relations Coordinator at the Center for Autism Research at SHOP. Um, Typically, we have everybody's cameras and mics off, but since it's just a few of us, a little bit more intimate. I don't know. Jim is our background. Person helping out with the Zoom call, maybe we can have this be a little bit more of an interactive session, if the Zoom settings allow for that. If not, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type those in the chat, and we'll have some time at the end for answering them, and hoping a couple more people jump on. So, Jamil, I want to turn it over to you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you for everybody being here today. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to present. Um, as you guys see the screen right here, um, my name is Jamiel Owens. I am the Family Relations Coordinator at the Center for Autism Research. I'm also a proud autism father. I'm an advocate. I'm an author, so forth and so on, et cetera, et cetera. I don't like speaking about myself, so you'll get that. But today I'm coming to you as an autism parent to really just express to you the importance of us fathers in the autism community. Not saying anything about autism mothers. We need them. We love them. Without autism mothers paving the way for us, we wouldn't be who we are. Those who are actually out there in the community and advocating. So thank you for having me here. I want to note that this picture right here of me and my guy Shane, who's my oldest son, I have a 3-year-old as well. Shane is 17, about to be 18 next year. He's about to graduate from high school. Very happy and excited for him because he worked so hard. We just recently went to Illinois to see my sister get married. And while we were in Illinois, we were literally 30 minutes from St. Louis. So we went over there because we had to see the Ark. And this was one of the pictures that we actually took. So I wanted to throw that in there because that's me and my guy just doing what we do, and that's exploring. So let's go right into the next slide right here. And I'm going to adjust this so I can see this a little bit. Um, why talk about fathers? So fathers are often missing from autism support spaces. Studies indicate fathers are significantly underrepresented in autism support spaces, with over 70% of fathers reporting that support is inaccessible when needed. This was a case with me, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as I wanted to make this presentation a little bit less about myself and more about the scope of fathers in general. But I wanted to share some context, a little bit about my life that gives you maybe an understanding of what maybe a father is going through, or maybe a male that you'll engage may be going through, because we all have a story, right? We all have things in our lives that go happen and really reflect on how we feel and who we are as a person. So I have a lot of stuff written down too, just to keep me on track. So if you see me reading, it's not because it's made up, it's just to keep me on track because I can go on. While this is true, it may not be due to what we often think collectively. I speak often and openly about my past and the traumas that I faced in my life. I want to express that these traumas that I've experienced hindered me from being the best possible father, husband, and leader that I was called to be. Now, for men such as myself, putting life on our backs comes with no guidelines on when it becomes too much and we just break. And you've seen this in society, and I'm sure, unfortunately, in some of our close relationships and interactions. And that break ultimately contributes to withdrawal. This is a simple equation that unfortunately I've experienced through my journey with my oldest son, Shane. One thing I want to say, though, is that we should always keep in mind that a father, just like any other person, never wakes up and say, "Hey, I don't want to. I want to leave my family today." There is always cause and effect, and this is the decision-making process that can be viewed through the lenses of causation, goal-oriented, planned departure, and effectuation, meaning driven, reactive departure based on available resources and immediate circumstances. And we're going to talk about my own personal cause and effect. So you can see it in real time in a tangible example of what that actually looks like. And this is what happened to me in my journey with my son Shane. It impacts families and outcomes, not only for the child directly, but for the parental relationship that is built for the interest of the child. Some facts that I actually found online is that along a large study of 3,550 children, including children with autism, greater early involvement of fathers in caregiving, reading, play was associated with lower levels of depressive symptoms in moms. This was by the National Institute of Health. Key science research that are actually going on to really dive a little bit deeper into understanding the impacts and the important role of fathers. Conversation is needed in this space and is very personal. But the one thing that anybody on this call can probably even conclude to is that as men, we have a hard time opening up. Even for us that are somewhat emotional, we are still very reserved on what we actually give out as far as information. I find that with myself, even though you're going to learn a lot about my life here, I still hold on to things and don't speak up about them. How do we get past that? My simple answer is that I keep doing presentations like this where I'm vulnerable about my experiences and my journey, therefore allowing other fathers and even other mothers or non-male caregivers to see and to choose empathy over everything, to give that person a grace and an opportunity to explain their situations and their causation. Why are they not present? Why they're not here? Why they're not intentional with their time? Things of that nature. I want to move on to the next slide. So my journey as an autism father. So this is where it gets a little bit heavy, okay? So Shane was born in 2008, and just like any man, I don't know any man that could sit there and say, "Yeah, I was ready to be a father," because I was not ready. I was scared and excited at the same time. I was one of those guys that knew that my first child was actually going to be a boy. Like I would literally go to Foot Locker to buy matching sneakers. That I did to make sure that me and my son, my firstborn, was just looking great and looking good. But that sense of belonging, I wanted him to know that dad truly loved him and wanted to be associated with him and wanted to do all the dad things, right? um but seeing Shane actually being born in the hospital kind of subdued the more traditional material things and really put scope on being intentional at that moment. And I'll explain a little bit. Seeing him being born in the hospital, being in the emergency room was probably one of the most beautiful things that I've ever seen in my life that I was able to witness. But with that, it encompasses a lot of things that parenthood demands and asks of those parents. And I wasn't ready for that. I wasn't the guy that was ready to have a child because or a marriage because I was a boy with baggage looking for a lifetime conveyor belt to help me slide through life. What I mean by that, and a little bit about my story, is that I had a lot of baggage, a lot of trauma early on in my life, and I never dealt with that trauma. And this is pivotal for men. And I don't want to highlight any particular population. I don't want to say men in the Black and Brown community, though I do want to recognize and acknowledge that we do have a lot of traumas, a lot of societal, generational traumas. But I want to say men in general, because that's what I like to do. I like to relate to men of all nationalities and ethical backgrounds. I like to speak and learn and engage with all men. We have a problem with unpacking our trauma and what exactly that looks like. There is no framework for that. We see on social media and things on TV where you see women around a book club, or we see women even at the gym or the spa really talking about their things. Rarely, there is only a couple times that you actually see that for men. So I want to get back to my story, but it came a day that I couldn't deny what was going on with Shane, and this goes right into the moment, the emotional moment of the diagnosis. So I can talk to a little bit about this without reading all my notes. Me and Shane's mother, because uh, I didn't know how to unpack my trauma. Me and Shane's mother suffered greatly in my first marriage to her. I was doing a lot of things that really would signify me as a boy versus a man. Therefore, we were always on passing by. I was working late nights, overnights. She was working during the day. So she would leave. I would come in, watch Shane. This particular morning, that would really uncover the need for a diagnosis, or at least um, some questions that we have for the pediatrician. She was leaving out. I was coming in, and I was extremely tired from work. I came into the house, and quite frankly, I'm gonna be real and transparent with you. There was a playpen there, right in front of the couch. I put Shane inside the playpen, and I fell asleep on the couch for about an hour. Didn't know what was going on because I was that tired. I woke up refreshed. Shane was there. He was playing. He was looking. He was interacting. I took him out of the playpen, and we had a sun porch, and I put him on the sun porch. Well, took him out the playpen, and he ran to the sun porch while I was just trying to wake up and gather myself. So about 5 or 10 minutes went by, and I didn't hear Shane anymore. So it kind of concerned me. And from the couch, as most male do, I yelled for Shane. Shane, what's going on? What are you doing? And he didn't respond. So that piqued my interest. I got off the couch finally. I went to the door to the sun porch. And when I arrived to the door, I seen something that I've never seen before in my life. And this is that he was stimming. What he was doing was taking his train set, and at the time he loved Thomas the Trains, and he was lining it up at the very edge of the radiator cover that we had on the sun porch, and he was going back and forth with his eyes. I want to harp on the fact that once again, I was a boy in a man's body dealing with man problems, but from a younger perspective, a young man's perspective. I did with any person in that situation who had more fear and more trauma built into his thinking and mindset of life at that time. I feared my son. So what I did is I pushed him down. And I don't mean a simple push. I pushed him down like I was in an altercation with another man. And I did that out of fear because I didn't know what was going on. When Shane was pushed down, excuse me, he looked at me with a look that I will never forget. And that's because he was basically saying to me, without verbalizing it, you are supposed to be my father, the one who loves me. Why did you push me down? And then he started to have a meltdown for about 5 minutes straight, just crying, just really, really a screeching cry. And from seeing that, I quickly retreated back to the couch where I started to cry myself. A couple reasons why is because I started to blame Shane for what he was doing. Never blamed myself, but started to blame Shane for what he's doing. And then the second thing was there's something going on with my son. There's no denying it. I need to figure out what's going on. So Shane had a meltdown for 5 minutes, gathered himself, got back up, picked up all his trains, lined them up against the radiator again, and went right back to stemming. Later that evening, I started to talk to Shane's mother, and I told her about what I actually noticed. And she actually admitted that she's been noticing some things too. But since our communication was not the best, and her fears as well, even though respectfully she was more mature than me, but fears of having some things going on with her firstborn as well, she did not mention. So we made a pact and agreement at that time to take Shane to the pediatrician, which then allowed us to get an evaluation. And in 2011, Shane was diagnosed with what we considered back then as high functioning autism, something we don't use today, a level one, or with Asperger's. That's what Shane diagnosis was in 2011. I want to take hold of some points that went through my mind. Why me? I shouldn't have a child that is normal, quote unquote. I want to start over. I contemplated leaving, starting a new family. In fact, and I'm going to be real transparent with you, on the drive over there, I was already plotting on how I'm actually going to leave my family because I already knew that this outcome wasn't going to be the best of my advantage during that time. Another point, I felt inferior as a man Every man wants to produce a healthy child. Once again, let's make sure we hold on to that point. I felt inferior as a man. All of these points never associated with me being a partner to Shane's mother, asking her if she's okay, consoling her, being there and being intentional, or looking at my son with a profound love that says, I'm going to be here no matter what. I internalize all of these things, me, me, me. And that's what most of us men actually do. My thoughts were a combination of selfishness, anger, fear, and manipulation. The moment I heard the words of the diagnosis, I instantly checked out. So I checked out while the drive over there. And then once I got my confirmation, it was a wrap. It literally was. I should have been more intentional about what my wife needed at the time, and most importantly, learning about my new child. Because of the diagnosis now, ushers in a new child into your life. So I should have been learning about who Shane is. Who is he? The concept of what I hope for in the son to be died. And that's okay. That's okay to mourn the loss of what you thought your son could be because the gift is right in front of you. And you have to do this journey in order to figure that out. We'll talk about that. As a parent or a father to a newly diagnosed child, I felt as though I was lost. Receiving the diagnosis verbally was one thing, but internalizing it was a whole different thing that took me 4 years to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I can't see everybody that's on the screen, but you guessed it. As soon as we got that diagnosis, I would say probably within 2 weeks, I left my family. So for 4 years, I was not in Shane's life. This was due to a combination of me and my earlier traumas being raised in the streets. Just to give you a little context, I was on my own since the age of 16. Learning how to be a man through the streets and being conditioned by societal beliefs had me internalize all of the traumas that I've experienced up to this point, including getting a diagnosis about my first son. It wasn't his fault. None of the things that happened in my life during my journey of myself was Shane's fault. It was just another trauma, and we have to recognize that that is a trauma to receive that once again because we have a perception of what we want our child to be, what we want to be able to produce to them, and that's okay. What's not okay is staying stagnant in that place. And to me, being a father and a professional, that is what I see a lot of our fathers doing, is staying in that position. And with this, and I say this in all my presentations, I failed as a husband to Shane's mother, a brother, a son, and a father. Fast forward through those 4 years of doing whatever I needed to do for me, for Jamiel, because I was selfish, and I was still a young man. Yes. Okay. I thought there was a question. I'm sorry. Um, the only reason why I was reunited with my son is because Shane's mother called me and she said, "You need to come see your son because he just called the trash man daddy." So I'm being very transparent with you because I'm hoping that if there is a case of co parenting, an individual on this call, that you please give the father grace if possible. Or if there is a disconnect within a household of communication, please understand the varying different circumstances that could be taking place. And that could be vice versa. It could be for both male and females. But I'm speaking from a father's perspective. I went to go see Shane. I hugged him. I cried and I hugged him. Why? Because now subconsciously I'm doing the same thing that my father did to me because I didn't like the circumstances that I was actually given. And from that point, right then and there, I made it a point to be an advocate. But before I turned into the advocate, I had to educate myself on what is ASD, autism spectrum disorder, and most importantly, on who Shane is. So it goes back to the key point that I put up here, one of these bullet points: presence over perfection. Being present over perfection is a philosophy or mindset that emphasizes the importance of prioritizing being fully engaged and mindful in the present moment rather than striving for perfection in every aspect of life. We are what? Fixers, right? This is just something that's programmed into us as men. We are providers and we're fixers. Nobody could show me how to fix Shane because Shane did not need to be fixed. I needed to be fixed. And when you tell another man, "Hey, you need to fix," oftentimes you're met with ego and arrogance and saying there's nothing wrong with me. But in this case, I really need to do a heart check. I really needed to understand who I was. Who I was in the past is not who I was meant to be now and in the future. So, this picture right here is a perfect example of provider versus emotional support in this picture. And I show this really now with this picture and then a picture of me and Shane as him being a teenager. And there's two different positions that people notice automatically in his pictures. One is this picture right here. I am being the provider, the protector, right? But in the other picture, I'm standing next to Shane. So what am I doing now? Is I am now a consultant to his life. And we have a hard time, as especially in the autism community, both male and females, mom and dad, caregivers, actually giving up that protector role. And rightfully so, because this world is very, very harsh. But for the context of this actual slide, I want to talk about this. Provider versus emotional support. Unfortunately, the unsustainable framework of being a provider can be seen on TVs, movies, and even given through AI. I knew what I needed to do from watching television. Once again, I was a 16-year-old kid who was living life as a 20 something year old adult forcefully. But what I learned on how to be a father when that time came, I learned from television. I didn't have any concrete examples of what a father should actually be. But what I lacked was the emotional support. This was a two-way street and often is with fathers and with men. What I mean is that we feel that being a man is not asking for help or seeking guidance on an issue, but figuring it out or fixing. But once again, I couldn't fix autism. I couldn't fix my son. So that affected me. That withdrew any emotional support that I could give to Shane, to his mother, because I couldn't fix the problem. I want to give you a tangible example for the next 2 points. Fear of a or uncertainty, excuse me, equals withdrawal, and a lack of emotional modeling. I, as a father, had a fear of my son, not the diagnosis, but my son, because I couldn't fix my firstborn after receiving the diagnosis. I feared his life. Notice I said I. It was never about Shane. It was all about me. Still, I can't fix it. So it has to be me, me, me. And this is a mindset that we often have. That made me feel inferior as a man, not as a protector or a provider. Therefore, I sought to withdraw. But you may ask, why would I choose the extreme? I was born a special needs child myself. So, once again, through the traumas that I had earlier in my life, then, growing up as a special needs child myself, I have a medical condition on my right leg called an AV fistula. My father left me. Now, my father is in my life. He actually found me now. He's been an amazing grandfather, amazing father to me. And I accepted him right at that point where he found me. I didn't ask for any explanation. But to a child who has a special need, where you think my thoughts would have went when my father wasn't around? Oh, he doesn't want me because I'm special, because I'm not normal. So my mom tried her best to raise me as a single mother, looking for love on top of that. Um, and she tried, but she couldn't give me the emotional firmness that I needed. Growing up in the 80s, living in the places that I lived in, I needed that male figure to establish the balance between firmness and emotional regulation, basically. And unfortunately, my mom was only able to do what she was able to do. Later on, I asked for a little brother, Kenny, which I was able to have as a present, as an only child. Any only child's in here, that's the worst thing we could have done is ask for a sibling because we received everything, right? But she did what she possibly could in order to grow or help raise two young men in that 80s environment. I never did just point out one specific ethnic group when it came to my advocacy records efforts, excuse me, just like I acknowledged first in the presentation. This is not about fathers of a particular population or area for me, because what I realize is that the best lessons in life came when I stepped outside of North Philly and really embraced people for who they are, the differences in which they that makes them different, and adds collectively to this thing we call life. So my efforts and how I talk, yes, gives you an example of another Black man in a journey raising his child, but I speak in a way that influences thought process on everybody, every ethnic background. So I never thought about that. While we must acknowledge and fight disparities every day, those disparities are in every ethnic population. And this is true. But unfortunately, if you stay confined to your particular ethnic background or ethnicity, you will never know the challenges that are faced by your counterparts in other ethnic backgrounds as well. These are valid for every man today. We don't have that modeling. We can go to the bar, we can go to games, we could talk a little bit with our friends, but can we be vulnerable? Can we cry? Can we get frustrated and say, I'm done with this, I want to leave? And will those friends be the ones that will step up and be like, you can't do that, I'm here for you, here's a shoulder, let's move over here? We are struggling with that, and I want to talk about a solution that we actually came up with at the Center for Autism Research. So I'll talk about that a little bit later on the slides. All right, we're doing good on time. These slides are a little bit less abrasive, so points, I'm just going to read them down. They really encompass a lot of my thoughts without having long drawn out storylines to back them up. So understanding the barriers. Once again, you see the picture right there, that's me. Shane is happy, that's young Shane. This was a turmoil time in my marriage where I wasn't happy, and you could see the disappointment and the disgust in my face. And it wasn't because of Shane, it was really because of my life and the traumas that I have, and not being able to unpack them, not being vocal to his mother or seeking help, getting actual counseling. So emotionally, we feel overwhelmed. We don't know how to say it. We don't know who to talk to about that. We're feeling unequipped. I'm unequipped to be a father. I didn't have the tools. My dad wasn't around. This was my first child. I still had resentment in my mind, in my heart, and in every aspect of my life. I was on my own since 16. It was very hard. I slept on a lot of couches and a lot of porches. I was homeless. I did that. I had things with that. And now that was transpiring not only to my marriage, but also to my firstborn. Few father specific resources, that is something that has been going on, but also too I want to stake a claim right here. You can, you heard the saying, you can bring a horse to water but you can't make the horse drink, right? There are few resources that have been available, but more are actually taking place now. Online groups. It is up to us as men, as caregivers, to step up and to actually make use of those resources. So we can't sit there and point the finger anymore at just organizations and people who are out here actually doing the work. We have to take a look at ourselves within. If, as men, and I'm speaking to the men, if we can go out and stand in line for a PS5 or the latest sneakers that went out, you can stand in line to get into that support group. You can sit there and be on a support group call for an hour or two. That is going to benefit not only you, but your child and also your partner. Just my thoughts. Work schedules, pressure to stay strong. We got to work. We prioritize work over everything. I'm learning that right now in my life, being a father of two children and having a busy professional career. How do I balance that and making time for my wife and family things? How do I balance that? Do I take criticism from my wife without feeling attacked? Right. And that's a thing that I'm learning right now. But when I'm learning this, I'm also engaging other fathers and telling them about my thoughts and how I get through these journeys, these struggles. Right, that's most important for us fathers. We don't have it. We don't have it a lot. We're just told we just got to figure it out. Not being directly invited into the care process is another thing that I've seen personally firsthand without people knowing where I work at. And it's quite disturbing. And I'm saying this because uh, the example that I seen, unfortunately, was through my own organization, CHOP. Um, and this person, this practitioner, did not know I worked for CHOP, And the way I felt disrespected even encouraged me even more not to curse her out or make her feel belittled, but to embrace the male culture, to embrace other practitioners, and to help them understand the importance of inviting the fathers into the care process of care. Quote here, I put down fathers rarely disengage because they don't care, but because they don't know where they fit in. You go into any of the doctor's offices, first thing the practitioner is doing or the doctor is doing is historically talking to mom. And while I want to say that's wrong, half the time mom knows all the information, right? The medical information. So I'm not going to say it's not true, but how do we change that to really make sure that fathers are feeling engaged? It can be as simple as just looking at them, acknowledging him when he's in the room, asking, do you have any questions, Dad? And I'm not saying that doctors and practitioners aren't doing it today, but we need to amp that up. That needs to be an everyday practice for everyone. A recent review shows that when fathers are included in parent coaching intervention programs for autistic children, children improve in communication, social skills, independent living tasks, and families saw reduced parental stress and improve overall family functioning. This is from online at Springer Link. This talks about all of these points right here. It's a recent study that was put out in 2023. So we are actually getting better, but once again, there are still holes, there are still flaws. Think about this, after this conversation. What can I do better? Even if you're not a practitioner, what can I do to make sure that my husband or that co parent, my son's father or my daughter's father, is feeling more involved and engaged? But be realistic, though, because if he does not choose to be engaged, you can only do but so much. So, on the other hand, to any of the males or the fathers listening, what are you doing to actually be engaged? Are you standing back and pointing the finger and blaming everybody else? Or are you taking inventory of yourself and making sure that you actually step up? So these points that you see on the screen right now are drastically being reduced because you do matter. Unique strengths of engaged fathers. Envision this: until I remove what I thought I should be doing in life and allow mediation spiritually to take over, these 6 points were non existent. When I remove the ego and pride from within myself and mourn the loss of the thoughts, key words here, mourn the thought, not my child, because Shane is not dead. He's thriving. He's Shane. He's himself. But I mourn the thought of what my son was implied to be by society. These 6 points, these 6 points became irrelevant. This is something that everybody is not an expert in. One thing I learned during my firefighter, I was a volunteer firefighter in Hatfield, but one of the classes that I took was EMT, and they talked about the 5 stages of grief. And my instructor told me, and this stuck with me, and I say this a lot, is that no one can tell you how to get out of those 5 stages of grief or when you should actually be doing that. So we have a lot of mothers that are in those 5 stages or maybe on stage 1 and has been like that for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We have a lot of fathers that maybe is on stage 4 and has been there for 6 or 10 years, but they don't know how to express that without hurting the ones that they actually love. This is the reason why support groups for males are more important than anything. Not more important than the women groups, but more important because we have already that bad rap of leaving circumstances that don't generate a positive outcome in our thoughts. Hello, I'm a perfect example of it. I am a statistic. In 2016, a study of 306 fathers of children with autism have reported being mainly or equally responsible for daily care routines, morning, night routines. Leeds Beckett University. In the same study, 75% of fathers said they played or spent leisure time with their child daily or several times a week. Nearly 40% said they helped with the homework many times in the past year. Over half attended multiple school meetings during that period, indicating significant involvement in education. I'm reading you these statistics because we are getting better, but it's a small fraction. Also, keep in mind that even if a father is going to these things, so he's physically present, he still may not be physically present here or here. So, how do we do that? How do we engage males to give them that emotional balance, to give them behavioral insights, not only of their child, but from themselves for their marriage? Problem solving. How do we engage more resources and tools for men to actually problem solve when it comes down to their neurodiverse child or neurodiverse loved one? Advocacy power. Until I actually let go of my pride and my ego, I was not able to actually step into the power and to the things that I'm doing today for the entire autism community. Relationship model, there isn't one. We have to create that because we are the caregivers. We have to reinvent our ideas and our love for our child. And that means dying to ego and pride once again. Stability and presence. It is our responsibility to be able to provide that. But a little bit off the rant real quick. I had to, once I died to my ego and pride, and I myself made a spiritual connection which allowed me to open up and see the blessing that Shane been in my life. I had to reintroduce myself to everyone here in the physical form on this planet. That was his IEP team, his teachers. I had to apologize to his mother, my ex-wife. You know how much that took to sit there and do that from a man that was prideful in a way and still prideful in some areas that I'm working on. I had to let go of my ego and pride. That is very hard for men. It has to be other men to show these men on what that looks like. This is the reason why I do these presentations. When systems leave father out, communication often directed to mothers. Once again, I just spoke about that. That's what happens. Intake forms assume mom as the caregiver. I've seen that on the IEP forms. No space did it say father. When I first got back into Shane's life, it was just mother, um, teacher, uh, caregiver, because his mother was seeing someone. And that was it. I was not mentioned on there. That was a hurt at the ego, at my ego and pride. But then I had to ask myself, who is to blame here? Did they leave your child or did you leave your child for 4 years? It's a hard pill to swallow, but I had to do that. Fathers rarely invited to meetings. That's something that we have gotten better at as a society. I see it all the time. Fathers are invited, but what do? We rather choose work or other engagements rather than being present. That's when we need a model of male and male peers, showing men like you have to be intentional. That intentionality that you're putting on other aspects of your life, your child needs that times 10. You need to be there. Limited, rather friendly scheduling. Once again, more employers are becoming a little bit more open minded to some of the needs of their employees. But once again, that needs for us to be open about it. Hey, you know what? I have a child at home with special needs. Let me tell you a little bit about my amazing son, Shane. But this is going to require for me to maybe call out or be absent from time to time. Is this company able to accept that? The best thing that we can be is be open, not lie about our situation. In the lack of father focused spaces, once again, there are more spaces that are opening up. We have some virtual groups. And once again, I'll talk about an event that we started that are opening up now, but we need more. We need more actionable spaces for fathers all over this country, all over this world. We need it. So, real quick, some actionable strategies. Direct invitations. Once again, we can start doing that. Dedicated father support groups. There are some out there. We need more. Normalize vulnerability. This is why I do these presentations, is to make sure that my vulnerability is out there. Flexible scheduling, strength-based communication, reinforce inclusion, and intentional language. We are good, Lisa. I got a couple more. We good? All right. I seen you pop up on the screen. Just making
Yeah, we're
sure.
good. Keep going. I just was going to tell you, maybe we have a couple of questions, so maybe in about 5 minutes we'll stop and do questions. Is that good?
That's cool. Real
Okay.
quick, I'm just going to throw these up here because I want to get to two key points. They're videos I want to play for you. Cultural responsive support. pictures. All these pictures are personal. So you see people in my life that have supported me and seen me through this journey. I'm going to go to the next one. Key needs: belonging, clear, judgment free, emotional safety, permission not to have all the answers. It's okay for us not to have all the answers, but also too as providers, as co-parents, as our spouse. Don't have all the answers, but say, hey, I'm gonna get back to you. I'm gonna encourage you. If we are talking about providers, say, hey, I don't have the answers, but let me communicate with you when I get those answers back. Why I do this work, this is everything. This is the reason why. This is a reason literally why. And one of the biggest reasons that are not mentioned on here is that if I don't do this for everyone else, just not me and Shane, if I don't do this for everybody else, I'm still neglecting Shane. That's how my thought and my heart works. So this is the reason why I do what I do. What we can do together: engage fathers directly, ask them how they're doing, really just engage with them, small talk, whatever it may be, ask them what they need, invite them to participate. That's for professionals. Now, for the general overall community that may be here on this presentation today, and even the fathers, you got to show up. Can't make you do anything. You got to show up. Ask questions, build your community. It's not just about the Eagles all the time, even though we love birds, but it has to be a little bit more. And final thoughts real quick: engage fathers directly, ask what they need. Just once again, just repeating that slide over and over again. That's what you need to do. I know I'm speeding a little bit through the past, but there's a reason why. So I've been blessed enough to have the support from the director at the Center for Autism Research at CHOP. And I started back in 2024 the Autism Fathers Conference, which is now called the Involved and Informed, a conference for autism fathers and autism advocates. I wanted to show you a video from last year. First year, we had 91 male caregivers and 15 non-male caregivers. That was in 2024. This year, we had 138 male caregivers, only 2 non-male caregivers, but the space is open for both male and non-male caregivers. So I'm gonna just do one of these videos and then I have one more after this. Let me know if you can hear it and see it. Can you hear it?
We can hear. I don't see anything.
You don't see anything?
And what this conference is so wonderful is that
You can't see anything?
I just see your slide, Jamiel.
Let me see.
That's okay. If you want, we can add this to our checkout and send it to all of our participants, and they can view it and click and view it on their own.
Okay. Let me go on to the that's weird. Okay. Let me go on to the next slide. You don't have to view it, but I do want you to hear it. I'm an avid Star Trek fan. I like the Next Generation. I am a Trekkie. I do not like the original series that much. Captain Kirk, I'm talking about. But there was one episode that I do want to play for you. Now, I do want to apologize because it doesn't have vulgar language, but it has a word that some might feel that is vulgar, and it's not for that. But I want to give some context before I stop this actual presentation. So I'm gonna play it real quick. Oh, it's commercial.
Amazon offers hourly employees health care on day one.
Okay, it's an Amazon commercial. That's not it, people. Don't worry about it. All right, here we go. There we go.
Excuse me, Captain Kirk.
yes, sir.
Mr. Scott.
The charming negress. Oh, forgive me, my dear. I know that in my time some use that term as a description of property.
But why should I object to that term, sir? You see, in our century, we've learned not to fear words,
The foolishness of my century had me apologizing where no offense was given.
We've each learned to be delighted with what we are.
That's really important to me. And this was by accident that I seen this. And I have to say the reason why is the lesson that I was taught there was that regardless of what society labels my son Shane, I am to teach Shane not to fear that, but most importantly, as a father who has been absent, who has not been the best, who is still striving to be the best educator and provider for my son Shane, I have to not get offended by the actual term. My offense needs to come in when someone is not willing to understand Shane outside of that term. That took a lot for me to dig in internally to figure out that you have to do things in your own life and to remove some things and to be open and vulnerable in order to engage other people who may not be looking from the inside out, who may be from the outside looking in. What Captain Kirk basically said was, we have learned to embrace all differences. So I think more so if fathers are able to embrace the fact that their child is different, because we're all different, mentally, physically, emotionally, then when you put it down in that situation, there is nothing better than what you've been blessed with by whatever spiritual God that you actually practice, if any. You've been blessed with a child like I've been blessed with Shane. And in that moment, I was able to capture and be able to put into this presentation, one, a show that I love, but two, the lesson that it actually just taught me is that we need to get to the position in the autism community where it's not offensive about the word. It's only offensive when people don't take the time to learn the person underneath of that label. And that's what I hope that with this presentation today, with you guys understanding some of the pitfalls that I've been through as a male that are ideal of the perfect or normal child needs to change, but it needs to be other men that pours into other men. Not saying that you cannot do it. Any women on the call, it's just that I feel strongly and without offense that is not your responsibility. It is our responsibility as other advocates and autism fathers that should be doing it. So that is it. Thank you for your time. It was a little sped up, but I know we got some questions, so I want to make sure I'm able to answer any of those questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Jamiel, and thank you everybody for joining us today. What a powerful presentation, Jamiel. Thank you so much. We are going to be sharing this with our Wednesdays community. So the presentation was recorded and will be sent out after. One of the questions I did get is, do you know of any support groups for fathers in the Bucks County or Philadelphia area? And if so, how can we get in contact with them?
Definitely. So I see it, Catherine. If you want to email me, I can send you the flyer for it. It's actually a fathers group that meets virtually. It's with two of my friends, mentors, Dr. Robert Nassif and Dr. Michael Hannon, who are both autism fathers and psychologists. It's through Montclair State University. They hold them virtually on Zoom every month. I can send you that information. Anybody can sign up. They have fathers from really all across the country. And then once again, the Autism Fathers Conference that is coming up in March, March 28th, 27th, and 28th in Wilmington, Delaware this year. It's worth it for a dad to come out for that. And we charge for this event, it will be $20. So it's nothing crazy to break the bank. And that will give the father or the non-male caregiver access to both days of the actual conference, which will have insightful conversations that will have guest speakers, keynote and breakout sessions, and lots of resource tables. So I can honestly say for those people who have answered the call of responsibility, we are doing what we possibly can to make sure that men and women alike have a safe space to kind of learn about each other and overall make sure that we're helping families out so they're not going into divorce, that there is an absent father, whatever we can possibly do.
I have a
Great.
follow-up question to that. So, first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing your story. I've learned so much. I really wish my husband was able to sit with me during this call. I actually attend this presentation more for a personal than a professional reason. We're in the middle of foster care adoption, and the child that we're looking at is level one autism. And so, would the conference and the support groups, would that be something that will still be an appropriate resource for my husband to connect with, even though we're not raising an autistic child right now, but it's definitely a possibility for the future?
Yes, I want to acknowledge both of you for even still going through the process. Real short story. One of my close friends who was a camp counselor had this kid in his camp, and he called me. He was like, "Hey, Jay, I need to ask you some questions because this kid here, he's autistic and he's not really engaging with some of the other kids or the activities." So I gave him the information. I followed up with him to see what was going on, and he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Listen, man, this is his last day here because his foster parents found out that he has autism, and they're going to return him."
Oh,
And I want to encourage you guys. For one, you always have me, so even
oh,
after this my information is consistent, but we have come to a point where autism is seen as if it is an item off of a shelf at Walmart. Like, we want to
oh.
return these individuals instead of loving them. So yes, the conference will be great because he's able to connect with other fathers, pick their brain as well, gather some resources, so then when that process go through, you guys are already hitting the ground running with a lot of resources, a lot of community that could kind of build with you, even one-on-one like play dates and things like that. He'll be
Mm.
able to establish them there and really find out what his role is, because that's another thing that has to be learned. So yes, if
Thank you.
more the merrier. Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jamiel. Thank you, Catherine. It doesn't look like we have any other ones in the chat that were put in, but if anyone else has any questions, we do have a couple minutes left. Again, we will be sharing Jamiel's information, the presentation, and his contact information as a follow-up email to all of our participants today, so that you'll be able to have that. Um, so if there's no other questions, again, we want to thank Jamiel. Thank you so much for providing this information to our group today. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to email Mary Ellen or myself, and we can get you in contact with anybody, with any of our Wellness Wednesday presenters, or with Jamiel. So thank you guys so much for everything, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you.
you. Bye-bye.